What is going on, everybody? My name is Northy, and today we are doing round 17 team coach review and a few things to go on. First off, I want to point out this fact. I mentioned in the round 17 preview that in my top 4 this week I was going to make a change. James Sicily had been my backman for quite a while, and I said, you know, we've been doing alright, but we need to make a change. We need to make some risks because we're not going to get everything we want every single time, and if we play conservative and go for what usually works, then the people who are taking those risks are ultimately going to be more rewarded. It doesn't matter if Sicily's getting 90 to 100 points. If someone gets 110, there's a chance we can improve. And I mentioned that we'd change up from Sicily, and if he somehow got first for the backman, I would have been in tears. Here we've got James Sicily on the front page, here to show me that, again, I can't have anything nice in this world. I just thought I'd point that out very quickly. But the second thing I want to do is give a big shout out to the first ever channel member for the Northy channel, and that is going to Rambling and Relaxing, aka Scott. I appreciate you joining the channel, becoming a grand finalist member. If you do not know, the members on the channel go from finalist to grand finalist to, I believe, champion. And so all 3 of those tiers are all available. You can purchase them if you want to support the channel in your own way. It's all very, very much appreciated. However, I just thought I'd give a special shout out to Scott today because being the first channel member on this channel, 1 is momentous, and 2, I'm super duper appreciative of. If you ever feel the need or feel like you want to support the channel financially in any way, it's always going to be appreciated. And although I won't do shout outs like this every single video, I thought I'd do it for the first one because it's super cool. Didn't happen in a live stream, it's just someone who decided to join on their own will, and that's super appreciated. But just thought I'd shout that out. Shout out that you can also join and become a member, and from now on, every single member who does join the channel will be shown on the bottom. You'll see your name scrolling across the bottom for all the members. It won't just be, hopefully, Rambling and Relaxing, aka Scott, every single week. But again, special shout out to them. Really, really cool of them to join the channel like that and support me in that way. So thank you so much. But that is where we're going to finish off all that. Again, if you want to join, go ahead and do so. But we're going to start with star powers and get into what we're here for today. And a really, really frustrating week. I think some positives. Luke Parker did okay. 89 points is alright. But of course, North Melbourne, Todd Goldstein comes out and gets 102 points. That makes sense. Carl Amon, 2 straight weeks in a row. Poor weeks. Really, really poor. Shea ended up being the best one for the Indigenous and Multicultural. We have picked him before, but Amon he's been doing so well for so long, and now all of a sudden, not having it. Noah Anderson had an amazing game. Could have got double points with him, but of course, we decided not to. Really, really bad decision. I am not happy with how this week has gone. Can you tell? We got Marcus Bontempelli, who had a pretty average game, like below average even. 80 points is not great, especially considering Jack Zeeble did better. My North Melbourne players all did well. I don't get it. How is this happening? And then Josh Kelly as well, a below average game, 78 points. And it's just the story of the week. We just managed to miss everywhere we could have. Luke Parker, although had the 89 points, is another miss. Carl Amon, somehow a miss. Like, I don't know where I'm going wrong, where I'm relying too heavy on people. And we get ranked 52. Thankfully, we are still in the top 10 and moving towards a top 5 finish. We are 6th. But if we have a look, not very many high scores. Someone under 600, someone under 700, sorry, was in the top 30, which is pretty odd. But we are very, very close to 10,000 points, and you can see they're a little over 100 points away from a top 3 spot. So if we can try and find a way to get better, it'll be so much better. But you see here, 667 points. It's not great, and we definitely could have picked up some extra points here and there. Switching out Noah Anderson for Luke Parker, the biggest change would have been, the most notable change at least it would have been. And it wouldn't have given us that lead back, but it would have put us over 700 and gotten us in the top 30. Just those little changes, man. It frustrates me so much. Amon should have had a ridiculously good game. Thankfully, from what it looks like, a lot of people are putting him as a double points player. And although he can do really, really well, I know a lot of people have mentioned how he's a double points player for them and he's doing really well for him, but Carl Amon this week, letting a few people down with only the 59, probably helped us out a lot. Having Noah Anderson is also really good, but again, could have had him double points. We have his team star power, could have gotten us over the line, and it's just so frustrating. may have to make that change soon, but these two are still playing some really, really good football. And it may have to go to Anderson soon. It may have to. His performance against Richmond in that game, that'll go down in history. That was an amazing performance from Noah Anderson. And hopefully the spark of something good for his career. But just missing, thankfully, still going up some spots there. At least there's that. But top 4 is really where it gets frustrating. Bontempelli only had the 80. Sinclair, he did okay. He had the 96. But again, Sicily, the week we talk about making some risks and taking him out, he wins the back line. Of course he does. Thankfully, Sinclair's only 7 points behind, but this is where it gets really frustrating. Lockie Neal, 60 points. 60. In a week where Callum Mills, who we usually pick, had 126 with 16 tackles. What? That is ridiculous. Riley O'Brien, below average. Not really the greatest pick. Jared Wicks, we usually pick, ended up winning the week. Do you understand where I'm getting all this frustration from? Nick Nui, who would have been a surprising one, only had the 7 disposals. I think a lot of people may have started picking him up. Only the 55 points. Not great for Nick Nat, but maybe we'll see a change there soon. But just really frustrating stuff. And like I said, Bonds with the 80 doesn't do us too well. But we look at the ladder, 242. Thankfully still in the top 10. I was really worried about that one. 313 points is not what we want to be getting. That's really, really stressful. Okay, we can live with it. We're all right. As long as we stay in that top 10. Staying in that top 10 is where we're aiming for. No one in the top 10 had good scores, so that's also a positive to look out for. Just gotta keep ourselves in it, man, because Lockie Neal performances, we cannot survive off of those. We cannot. Now we go into the top 18 here. Top 18. Few disappointing choices. Nick Boston did not play. I forgot he was suspended. Thankfully, we did have Sicily, and we also had Sinclair. Chris, who I thought would do well, still struggling to find himself. And same with Dawson. Unfortunately, having that odd week that he played poorly. And then Whitfield with a 35 is pathetic. We go over to the midfield. Jack McRae, again, one of those weeks where he started off looking like he was going to do really well, didn't even get his 30 disposals that it feels like he's almost guaranteed to get every week, and still just went below his average marks and tackles. I'm waiting for the week he does it, but at the moment we're not getting it. It's so frustrating. But Laird and Steele ended up being 2 really, really good picks, so at least we have 2 100-plus point performers. I think Clayton Oliver, 97, that's not terrible, although it is the midfield, we would like to see something a little better. And we've already talked about Lockie Neal. We don't need to talk about him much more. Just frustrating. But we go to the forward line. And once again, a positive week for the forwards. Luke Jackson, he didn't play all that good. He is now behind, I believe, Maxi Gawn in the ruck. So he doesn't get many of those ruck-like points, those hit-out points. So we don't get much from that anymore. But he didn't kick a goal. And he only had the 1 mark. So just a below average performance from Luke Jackson, who looked like he was finding his stuff. It looks like he was starting to really find his way in the Melbourne team. Again, just unfortunately now has to play that backup role more as a backup ruckman. And in that forward line where you can see, didn't do all that much. Unfortunate in that situation, but overall, really positive. Jamie Elliott, who I said was a sneaky pick, ended up getting 97 points. Really happy with that pick. Dylan Moore, 100 points. Can't be any more happy than that. 7 marks in there, nearly 30 disposals. That's really good for Dylan Moore's standards. Harry Himmelberg even found himself up there with the 83 points. Like I said, him in that back line, he's starting to work it out. And as a forward, it's really good for him. Some surprises. Both Mackay and Curnow both went off for 5 goals, 3. The exact same scoreline. 8 scoring shots each, 5 goals for each other. Very surprising. Both of them would have been good picks. I think Tex Walker ended up being our most disappointing one. And you can see here, like, this is not the average score that we usually get for Tex. You can see here, 15 disposals, what he averages, 6 marks and 3 goals. Just below average across the board, and only 15 points behind his average. He's not great. Heaney, I believe, was the person we replaced him for. And of course, after so many games where Heaney has felt like he's completely, like, dropped off. But I wouldn't say dropped off. I think dropped off's a bit harsh, because I think Heaney does enough to play his role, but at the same time, he definitely wasn't up to scratch coming into this round. And then he and Papley just went amazing, just did really, really well together. Ended up having both 84 and 89 point performances. My brain just stopped working, but yeah, it's a bit disappointing to see Heaney and Papley both getting 80-point performances when you just dropped Heaney after a string of poor performances. So I'm interested to see whether Heaney keeps that up maybe we'll put him in again. I'm not sure, but at the moment, I think Jackson's on the chopping block. Elliott probably won't be in there again. I think Elliott just really had a good time playing, I think, a little bit of midfield, as well as that forward option against North Melbourne, who also had the leading ruckman. Todd Goldstein was the leading ruckman for the week, so I don't imagine many people had him. So Jared Wicks would have been the winner for most people. Todd Goldstein, it just shows that even in his age, he still remains one of the greatest ruckmen of all time. And I know it may be a bit biased coming from me, but he leads hitouts all time. He even remains dominant throughout age, and maybe that just comes down to the fact that North maybe need him a bit more than most other teams need their ruckman. But Todd Goldstein, just a legend all around. I hope he stays at North. I really, really do. But for this week, rank 112 and sitting at rank 13 for the season so far. Bomber Jason, that is Jason Collectibles. He found himself in the top 10 at rank number 4. Good work to him. No one got over 1600, which is quite interesting, especially in a week where there were multiple people or multiple players over 100 in the midfield. And we looked through it. Guthrie could have been picked. A lot of people may have picked Cornelia, and I did mention Zach Merritt's doing all right, so maybe some people would have picked him. Brayshaw, I cannot get a gauge on when Brayshaw's going to play well, man. It really comes down to whether you get lucky or not with him. Mills has the ability to have a bit more of an exciting game compared to other players, but you check here, we had majority of the average players except for one, I believe. No, majority were the best average players. We had McRae in there. We didn't have Walsh, and thankfully we didn't. I think Walsh didn't play too well. But I look at the ladder, and I just think if we had taken out Vlosten and if we had taken out Whitfield, because I think those would have been main changes. Lloyd, we've got to start looking at a bit more. He's starting to find his form that he had last year. I really don't know where any of the other changes could have been made for us, though. McRae may need to go, but my fear is that if we get rid of McRae, he's gonna have that game, and it happens every single time at the moment. I cannot pick out when they're gonna play poor and when they're gonna play well. I need help with this stuff, man. I need your suggestions in the comments, because right now, I keep finding a way to pick players when they're about to have a poor game. I don't know how I keep doing it. Lockie Neal, I switched into the midfield for my top 4. He dropped 60 points in a loss against Essendon of all teams. Sinclair played all right, but we've had Sicily in for what feels like the last few months, and maybe the occasional first place, but the minute we take him out, first place finish for James Sicily. I don't understand where I need to change it. And Bontempelli, who's been our main forward for most of the year, now can't find his form. The Dogs in general cannot find their form, and I don't know where I need to look to make these changes correctly, or whether it's just plain dumb luck that I'm not getting these players picked at the right times. It's really frustrating stuff, but hopefully next week for round 18 we can fix it up and get ourselves that prize card, because the next prize card I wanted for Star Powers was Jack Zeeble, and we had a streak of many prize cards, and now we can't do it. Now, for some reason, we keep finding a way to miss it. It's a little frustrating, but at the same time, we're going to work through it. We're going to get him eventually. I'm more than confident in doing so. Swerve and Zervin, an amazing week for him. Where is he in the leaderboard? Swerve and Zervin is 247. That's an amazing week for Star Powers to be, what, 60, 70 points ahead? 65, I think, ahead of everybody else. That's an amazing week for him. But again, we've got to take the most of our opportunities, and it's as simple as a few changes here and there that are missing us out on prize cards. We're going to check the tips, though, because I did do my tips for round 17. I made sure to do so. It's not perfect, of course. I'm quite poor with my tips, but we have a look here. There we go, round 17. 5 out of 9. I am quite poor with picking the right team at the moment, but we have a look. Richmond over Gold Coast, maybe a poor pick, but at the same time, Richmond had that game. They had that game, and they dropped it themselves. I think everybody would have gotten Brisbane versus Essendon. Unless you're an Essendon fan, Brisbane would have been tipped by almost everybody. Adelaide, I expected them to beat Hawthorn in their big losing streak, but Hawthorn finally snapping that. Good job to them. Collingwood just edging out North, and with the way the week went anyways, I wouldn't have even cared if I got this tip wrong. It's just unfortunate knowing that even, like, it's just wrong both ways. I don't want Collingwood to win, but they did win, and it benefits me, but I would have loved North to win. Oh man, at least the streak of 40-point defeats is over, but it's just something really wrong about a 7-point loss when you're up by 30 at 3/4 time. Just something feels really wrong about that. Melbourne over Geelong may have been a really bad pick in hindsight. I think Melbourne, with the way they've been performing previously coming into that game, I think Geelong should have been the much better pick. Melbourne are starting to show some flaws, and I'm not sure how they're going to recover, but I still feel like they could. That spark that they had last year, any halftime deficit they had, they'd always come back and blitz a team. Now, it feels less guaranteed. It feels like more teams are starting to crack onto how to beat them. So it's going to be interesting to see how Melbourne responds, but I don't think Melbourne are favourites to many people anymore. I think Geelong seem to be that favourite team at the moment, maybe followed by Fremantle, if you're being really generous, and then Melbourne somewhere around 3 or 4, but it's really open. It feels like Geelong's at top right now, and that frustrates me a little bit. I won't lie, because they've been good for a while, but Geelong fans, they'll be happy, and good on them, I guess. But overall, a pretty poor week. We got over 50% at least, but hopefully next week we will find ourselves with at least an 8 out of 9. I think 8 out of 9 is what we're aiming for. I'll have a look here, and I think we'll be able to find an 8 out of 9 week here. Some tough ones like Melbourne versus Port could be interesting. Hawthorn versus West Coast has potential to be really interesting as well. Sydney versus Fremantle. If Sydney plays as well as they usually, or they have at least against the Dogs, Sydney could definitely take that, but Fremantle probably remains the more popular pick. I don't know, maybe 8 out of 9 is a bit harder than I thought, but nonetheless, we'll give it a red hot crack. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully next week's a bit better though, in terms of scores, in terms of everything else. But once again, we just got to make the right decisions at the right time, and we just can't seem to find it at the moment. But again, shout out to Rambling and Relaxing. Appreciate you joining the channel. Be sure to become a member if you haven't already. Everything is very much appreciated. Like the video, subscribe if you're new. Again, just super happy with everything that's going on channel-wise. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.